Okay. So for our viewers on YouTube, welcome. Today we are reading from Guru Leela Volume 3, Grace That Heals. We have people here with me in person, and also we have people on Zoom. So welcome everyone who is on YouTube. So as always, I will start with the editorial from the editor's pen. With the blessings and grace of our beloved Mohanji, we are very happy to be publishing the third book in the Guru Leela series, Guru Leela Volume 3, Grace That Heals. Every experience shared in this book is a loving offering from the hearts of those who have been healed in various ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, by Mohanji's powerful and divine energy. Some of these extraordinary events and miraculous experiences will leave the readers filled with awe. Our deepest gratitude to Mohanji for his eternal love and protection, present not only for his devotees but also for their families and lineage. Grace That Heals is a collection of stories where people from different walks of life have experienced healing through various aspects of Mohanji. Healing can happen in his physical presence or energy field, or by connecting to him through prayer, chanting, or remembrance. Other ways of connecting with Mohanji's energy are through the Maitri method and Mohanji transformation method. These are profound methods of deep cleansing, balancing, harmonizing, and rejuvenation which greatly enhance the natural self-healing ability of the recipient. Through these methods, the initiated practitioners connect with consciousness of Mohanji, and that's how the healing happens. Hundreds of devotees from all over the world seek the presence and blessing of Mohanji. When we connect to him with honesty and sincerity, he takes care of everyone, directly or indirectly, taking away our troubles and sufferings, guiding us on our individual journeys and bringing about positive inner transformations. Mohanji works tirelessly to help all beings of the world. He is the most compassionate companion and the truest friend who would never let go of our hands. Mohanji was recently described as follows in a European publication, that Mohanji is not a mystic. He is a friend whom you can trust. This trust is what we feel the most when in his physical presence. His gentle smile, kind eyes, and the warm hug wrap us in the aura of love and protection, enabling us to share our deepest troubles with him. With a casual hug, he heals us on all levels and removes blockages of lifetimes. In an unassuming way, this trusted friend works on every aspect of our being, cleansing us, giving us what we need, and walks with us on our chosen path. This grace of healing happens when we connect with Mohanji sincerely from the heart, and he takes care of the rest. As he often says, keep walking, I am walking with you. Devi Amma, a living saint of tradition, very clearly shared, he is Vishwamitra, a friend of the universe. Who is on what happened? YouTube. 1 second. And also I want to just switch off the okay. Just wanted to switch off this notification that's coming. This is the one, right? Sorry for that disturbance. Okay, continuing on. Under this physical connection as a friend is a master whom we can only catch a glimpse of through the various experiences and transformations that happen within us. This too is visible only if we have the eyes to see and have the awareness from within. He works effortlessly and quietly, unseen and unheard. He is Daya Sagar, the ocean of mercy and compassion. His love has no boundaries of space and time. Everyone benefits and everyone can take shelter under his umbrella of grace and protection. Our heartfelt gratitude to all those who have contributed towards creating this book. It's a beautiful offering of love to our eternal guide, protector, and friend Mohanji. This gratitude is the reason behind the birth of this Guru Leela series. It's a humble attempt to present a collection of beautiful experiences of devotees from around the world, through which we get a glimpse of this beautiful incarnation known as Mohanji. May this set of true stories be handed over to the future generations also, to know about this divine being who walked on the earth. As Mohanji says, writing and sharing our transformative experiences is very important. He says, when you experience grace in life, write your memoirs. When you are in despair and cannot feel the grace factor, you can read that. Your own experiences are your greatest assets. Your own life is your most reliable guide. We hope all the readers feel the power of Mohanji's divine Leela and his grace while reading these stories. After reading this book, please send your feedback to testimonials@mohanji.org. Our heartfelt gratitude to the authors and the contributors of each article in the book. They have transformed this book into a beautiful expression of grace that heals. We extend our sincere gratitude to Anganang, Inuit Kalalit, the great shaman of Greenland, for writing the letter with love to Mohanji. It's one of the 4 words. Our heartfelt thanks to Anna Divach for her honest sharing about Mohanji in the foreword Superhero. That's the another foreword. We also are grateful to Dr. Harpreet Vasir for his inspiring and honest sharing in his foreword, I treat, he heals. Our deepest appreciation to the book presentation team, Mohana Hanumatananda, as always, for the cover page design. Beautiful design as you have seen. And Venkataraman for the book layout design. And Sarathi Raghavan for the printing and consultation. Above all, thank you, Mohanji, for being our invisible guide throughout this journey, without whom this would not have been a reality. With love, Rekha Murli, Shyama Jayasilan, and Subhashu. So that was the background of the story, of the book. Now I would like to read one story from here. I was going through this book today, and I've not seen this book for quite some time. And I was once again surprised as if it was new to me. I mean, imagine we have gone through this. This was in year 2022, right? No. 2021. This was published in 2020. You'll see it from the publication here. Oh, it's before 2020. This was published in 2020 because Guru Leela 4 was 2021. So this was in 2020. 1 and 2 were in 2019. This was in for Mohanji's birthday 2020. So 4 years. And I feel like this is all new stories that I'm seeing. We have authors in this book. Shama has a story in this book. Nellian, who is also here, has a story in this book. I also have a story in this book. So I was thinking when I was going through which book to. So there are, I'll tell you, I don't know, if you don't have the book, you can get it from the Gurlight or also on the Amazon. We have about. So we actually started with a story by Devi Mohan. I don't know how many of you know. She wrote this because this is all about healing. She wrote the story about Mila. When Mila nearly lost her life. And how she was healed. So, but it's a big story. I will let you all to read from the book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 26 stories are there, 26 healing stories. So you must check out this book if you don't have and read this. I'm just going to select one of the stories which is by Kathy Johnston. She is from UK. And it is a very nice story, so I'm sure you'll all like it. This was the first time that Kathy ever met Mohanji in Serbia, and a miraculous healing happened to her. So let's read that. Let's listen to that. So this is the book on page 30. The story name title is Divine Call of Nature. Kathy Johnston from the UK. Kathy, I hope you're there. You listen to us later on YouTube. Having gone through 30 years of various gynecological procedures and subsequent total hysterectomy 10 years ago, following the respective births of my two giant-sized babies, each of them were 10 pounds, I had become used to living under the governance of my ever-increasing bladder alerts. Wherever I traveled, I would automatically mentally calculate my liquid intake and the very real prospect of a cross-legged stagger to the nearest bush in the face of commonplace lack of public convenience. Most often, my decision was a toss-up between remaining hydrated and taking the risk or deciding to dehydrate to avoid a crisis. The latter usually prevailed. Daytimes weren't the only problem. This was a 24/7 vigil with sleep disturbances, a normal for me. Aeroplane and coach journeys were the things of nightmares. Careful consideration and planning beforehand were extremely necessary for me. When the opportunity to attend Mohanji's Serbian retreat in October 2019 came up, the first considerations that came to mind were all of the above. A couple of months before the planning of the travel for the retreat, I had the dawning that next birthday would be the big 60. So in 2020 she was turning 60. I had then decided that once and for all that the time was right to get my problem sorted before I began my 6th decade, and duly made an appointment to visit a female gynecologist in Manchester. Unsurprisingly, it was confirmed that I had a prolapsed bladder and required one of two surgeries. Another appointment for the investigation to decide which one of the two operations I needed was planned for the Wednesday after I would arrive home from Mohanji's Serbian retreat. I have to admit that I was sorely tempted not to attend, with the thought of flying 2 hours to Zurich followed by a 5-hour coach ride. Did it have an onboard loo? Was too much to contemplate. I was traveling with my younger son via a stopover with him in Switzerland, and who, by sheer and ruthless pester power and lack of real empathy, convinced me there would be a loo on the board of the coach and that all would be well. Mentally, I decided I would abstain from all liquid refreshment and be prepared to arrive at the retreat feeling like a prune. I could rehydrate in the comfort of my room with my lovely private ensuite. Before booking, I had also noted the code of conduct sentence that prompted those who needed to leave the room regularly during the satsang would be the best advice to sit at the rear of the hall to avoid interrupting Mohanji's flow, etc. The first satsang arrived during our first evening together with around 200 other attendees. So I made sure that I arrived early to pick my seat at the back, not wanting to have to elbow other light-bladdered women out of the way. Incidentally, all of this particular retreat events, words, language was entirely alien to me. Not to my son, of course, who had occasionally uttered these Indian sounding words in my presence. So my expectations were basically zero. The evening of the first satsang arrived. Satsang What does it mean? And I duly sat at the end of a back row seat. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, the blonde lady in front of me had rather big fuzzy hair, and my views were so restricted that I found myself constantly bobbing up and down as I became more and more drawn to the truth this Mohanji person was speaking. I became very frustrated, but cannily spotted the next sit for the following day that I could nab. I would get there early once again to avoid any drama. The following day's satsang arrived with me smugly seated at the end of the curved middle row, close to another exit door. I settled in and was so happy with my perfect view. I had monitored my liquid intake and knew that I could last about an hour before having to nip to the loo. About halfway through, my mind became distracted by my usual obsession as I wondered when a good time would be to duck out invisibly, not wanting to draw attention to myself or disrupt the flow. I was also beginning to cross my legs and, in all honesty, didn't want to miss a trick of what was going on. I was captivated by this person. He spoke to my own heart, directly speaking my truth and reassuring me about myself. I was transfixed and also uncomfortable with the increasing knowledge of an imminent dash becoming quite necessary. Suddenly, out of the blue, Mohanji stopped speaking and asked aloud, "Does somebody need to go to the toilet?" My heart stopped and skipped a bit as I shrank down into my seat and averted my gaze, praying to God no one would recognize my body language and realize it was me. God only knows how I managed to sit through the next half of the satsang, but I was puzzled. I wondered, did this person read my mind? How can this be? This has to be a coincidence. Blah blah blah. At some stage later that day, we all toddled off for our conscious walking session in the glorious sunshine on the beautiful Serbian mountainside. Sitting quietly on a rocky outcrop at our mountain top destination, my son and I were discussing the experience so far when I felt a gentle hand on my head as someone navigated the bumps of the hill around where we were sitting. I thought absolutely nothing of it and looked up and smiled at Mohanji as he gently ambled on the group he was walking with. My son, looking wide-eyed and directly at me, was gasping, "Mom, Mom, Mohanji has just blessed you. Do you realize what this means?" I was smiling, but really in total ignorance of the whole shabadul of so far. Nothing was normal to me. The whole experience so far was a million miles away from my everyday life. All of those people talking so freely about their emotions and problems, and this wonderfully wise guy walking casually amongst all. I was trying really hard to process, but as these days were on, my mind was becoming more and more mushed. I can't remember the exact sequence of the events, but at some stage we were informed that the timetable for the following day was to begin an hour earlier at 6 a.m. and we were to go directly to the dining hall to drink a liter and half of water followed by 12 almonds. Really? Why would this be? How was I going to cope with this 2-hour yoga session afterwards? In truth, yoga was actually the deciding factor for attending this retreat, and if it hadn't been on that agenda, I would definitely could have resisted coming here. I was genuinely distraught. My body was craving for some yoga, but I know deep down that my whole week of yoga was in jeopardy with this ridiculous new instruction and the subsequent million dashes I would have to make during yoga, in every session, disrupting the others. I felt that this week was going to be ruined for me and that I would return home as unfit as I had arrived. The first session of yoga, following our new water and nut regime, was amazing. Yoga like I had never experienced, and from the word go, we were totally immersed in the feelings within. Starting with the gapless breathing, again something new for me, followed by the traditional full body workout yoga session. I hadn't anticipated the overwhelming emotions at the commencement of Shavasana when a wonderful guitar sprang to life and the most mournful voice began to sing its tune. I was unsure if this was a live or recorded performance, and I longed to know if it was live. Upon rousing, I saw it was the beautiful Natesh, but my taps by this time were already on full flow, and thankfully from my eyes, I couldn't control my sorrowful weeping and was very confused as to what was happening to me. The following day was almost the same, if not more tears, and it was only during the second half of the second day, during the afternoon, that it suddenly dawned on me that, hold on, what's going on here? I haven't been dashing out to the loo. This can't be right. I have seen so many people nipping in and out of the yoga session, and not once have I had to leave the room. This is bizarre. Maybe I have soaked up all the water because of the long dehydrating journey. I tried hard to fathom it all, and maybe after the third day I began to mention this to some of the other women I had made friends with. Each one of them smiled knowingly, some even giggled, and I was dumbfounded. How could anyone heal someone else's bladder without surgery? What is happening to me? Who is this person? Words are so feeble, a tool to try to convey the atmosphere during this event, and I kept thinking to myself, being here is believing. There are no words adequate enough to encapsulate the feelings and emotions bubbling up so frequently unannounced. More and more, I had the overwhelming feeling that I was witnessing something truly sacred and divine, and I felt genuinely humbled to be enveloped by the grace of this person and his beautifully natural and unassuming family. One particular word, Mohanji used more often than any other, tickled me and brought to mind a Beatles tune, All You Need Is Love. It was Mohanji's pronunciation of the English word love that sounded like love, which made me smile every time he spoke it, and this tune became cemented on a permanent loop within my mind. I became convinced throughout the remainder of the retreat that I had been touched by the grace of God and had even had a flesh hug from the same. How could I possibly explain this to people back home? Where would I begin to describe the goings on and wonderfulness of it all? I then began to dread the prospect of being without these people, this new spiritual family I had found. I also had the prospect of my second gynecological exploratory appointment looming on the Wednesday after my return home that weekend. Would it be prudent to go along? Would this be an insult to Mohanji and maybe reverse my miracle cure? What was I to do? Who would know the answer? Would attending this second consultation back home cast doubt upon my faith? I was in a quandary, and towards that last day I began to ask the advice of one or two people. My son was adamant and quite assertive in that I had to keep my faith and cancel the consultant's appointment. Someone else told me the answer was within me. Turmoil. The final evening dawned, and it was my time to have a one-to-one, 3 minutes with Mohanji. I was more troubled with thoughts about my elder son and his future life and the recent near fatal accident of my husband to think about, using those precious minutes to ask about my personal troubling decision. So I nervously blathered onto Mohanji about my husband and our life of striving together, ignoring this elephant in the room question. After Mohanji had delivered his reassurances regarding my spoken troubles, I thanked him. But just as I was about to open the door and leave him, I turned around and asked him outright, "Did you heal my bladder?" To which he responded, in his gentle, half smiling way, "I am always at work." Or also, when Mohanji says, "I always do my job." My journey homeward bound was to stay 2 nights with my son in Switzerland before flying back to the UK. During the first day out in Switzerland, I was dismayed to notice a slight return in my need to find the nearest ladies' room. And on my return to Geneva airport from my trip back to the UK, for my trip back to the UK, I glumly noted the frequency was increasing. My 21:30 flight was delayed by 2 hours, which meant a dismal hanging around half empty airport. And once past security, I found myself dashing towards the nearest loo. Typical of my pre-Mohanji cure. Once inside the cubicle, I had a frantic dash to prevent an accident, and I felt utterly despondent and really confused as to all that had just occurred in the space of a week. Did my indecision to cancel my consultant's upcoming appointment reveal my lack of faith and put doubt in my mind regarding this healing? I was at a complete and utter loss, with no one to help or support me. So I looked up from my cubicle and asked Mohanji out loud, "Please, Mohanji, tell me what to do. Am I being punished for doubting or lacking in faith? And by keeping my appointment, will this undo all the work you have done? Please help me." I was feeling very sad and unhappy and so unsure of myself and the decision I had to make. As I walked towards the wash basin and pressed for the soap, I looked into the mirror and suddenly noted the song coming from the piped music was none other than "All You Need Is Love." I literally laughed out loud and smiled at myself and spoke out loud to Mohanji in complete and utter thanks. My answer had arrived, and he had known all along that I had that tune in my head throughout the whole week. How funny. God has got a great sense of humor and does work in most surprising ways. Needless to say, I duly cancelled my consultant's appointment for the Wednesday ahead and have never looked back or have had to keep my eyes peeled for the nearest inconvenience. Once again, words cannot begin to convey my gratitude for the whole surreal and ultimately humbling experience, but most of all for my reintroduction to the God within. Mohanji. I am smiling now while I am typing the name. The world will indeed be healed. All we need is love. To share my wonderful experiences with my nearest and dearest one was really difficult, as I had anticipated. But the worst for me was not confiding in my mom. My mom is undeniably my best friend. She is clever, funny, has a wicked sense of humor, and has always shared my every significant moment. The opportunity arrived when she came for an extended visit last week. I bravely printed off my testimonial and handed it to her. Did I forget to say that she is an atheist? I left the room to let her observe the info and came back in, sat down beside her, looked her straight into the eyes and asked her, "What do you think, Mom?" She was very quiet, looked right into my eyes and said, "It's very strange, but do you know something funny? My bladder problems have stopped too." I vaguely recall Henry, the younger son, mentioning the fact that once we are blessed by Mohanji, then our whole family would be blessed too. So I sketchily mentioned this to my mom. She responded with a bewildered look in her eyes and an audible So I left it at that. Later on, yesterday I heard from the lovely Owen, and after telling him this story, he explained the lineage facts which become so much clearer to me now. And my jaw literally dropped. My maternal grandmother had the same bladder issue, and so the story ends with my cure because it is a lineage issue. I'm so giddy with this new knowledge and living day proof from a hardwired skeptic tool that I want to share it with the whole world. I was so happy going to bed last night and asked Mohanji if he could help me sleep without me having to take a melatonin. Um, I boldly left the tablet to the one side, knowing I would be heard by Mohanji. My husband followed me to the bed and immediately about turned to sleep in the spare room when he heard my melodious snores. I had the most wonderfully deep and restful sleep since I can remember, and I can't wait to see if my mom did too. Thank you, Mohanji, for your care and connection with and for us. I asked and you delivered, and my faith has been rewarded yet again. Please let your grace be available to everyone through the vehicles of us all. What a beautiful story. Just to mention a little bit, Kathy, this was the first time when she met Mohanji in 2019 and the first retreat, and this miracle happened there. And this lineage, like her mom. So basically, the lineage karma almost stopped with that, right? Since then, Kathy, of course, has been one of the uh, core members of UK. She does so much of seva as part of ACT UK. Has been traveling to all these places around Morocco, Turkey, whatnot, and also helping so many people in many ways. It's truly amazing, and even though she's 60 plus, nobody will say that. You will see her like a young bubbling teenager, and amazing sense of humor, and from the background that she comes, there is no devotion, no Hindu. She is completely, I mean, unaware of even this guru word. So all this cannot be mind. This happened to her, a tangible experience. For of course, then the faith has increased. So now it's 4 years, no looking back, and I think it's an amazing story of healing through Mohanji's grace. Yeah, anyone would to like to share or say something?
It inspired me to write as more about my experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Oh, something coming along.
So I'll try and do that. Yeah.
Good.
I've been thinking a long time that I have a lot to say
Yeah,
and write, and I should.
come closer so people can hear you properly.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I've been thinking for some time that I wanted to write all my experiences down, and I wasn't sure whether to do it all in one kind of story or separate them out. But yeah, I think when you read it and you listen, you realize how transformational and little things that you think, oh my God, like what happened to like my pain or my this or my that, and it's just been taken away,
Yeah.
and you've kind of not even realized how much work Mohanji is doing all the time to just make our lives so much better. So yeah, watch this space and I will try and write it down.
Now you have committed in
Now
front
I've
of the whole
committed,
world.
yeah. Okay, so yeah,
We'll be
game
hounding
on,
you.
game on, yeah.
Game on. Yeah. I mean, Nillian is back in the room. We had in this same book, we had a story where she wrote about your knee pain. Yeah, so I mean, amazing stories of healing that has happened that, all over. This is only 26 stories, but in reality, healing stories are hundreds. Hundreds. And how many stories that we still publish on our Mohanji Chronicles on the Maitri blog site. So yeah, anyone who wants to share any such stories, you're most welcome. And yeah, thank you for your time joining today, and we'll look forward to next week. Thank you so much. Jai Mohanji.